Um, so with that, I would like to let everybody know we're going to have a nice live Q&A after Ms. Jobson has completed her presentation. Um, in the meantime, if you have questions that you don't want to forget, you can drop them in the chat, but I will give you guys a chance to ask your questions out loud if you like. As she's speaking, if you would please look at that link that she put in the chat, and if you would like for Ms. Jobson to be communicating with you about upcoming events, opportunities, or anything that you need to know about Harvard Law, please just go in. I'm sure it takes 30 seconds to just put your name and your email in so that they can continue to communicate with you guys. But so excited to see everyone. Um, with that, I will turn it over to Miss Christy Jobson of Harvard Law.
Hi, everyone. I'm so thrilled to be with you today. I only wish it could be in person. My name's Christy Jobson. I'm the Dean of Admissions at Harvard Law School, and we have sort of a two-part session today. First, I'm going to tell you 5 things to know about Harvard Law School. Are they the 5 most important things? Are they the 5 most crucial things? Maybe, maybe not, but it's 5 things that I'd love for you to know. I usually do the 5 things presentation in about 5 minutes. I know you're probably spending so much time on Zoom these days. So I'll present. Throughout the presentation, I'm going to drop some links into the chat because I feel like all of us like to be on a Zoom session and also have the opportunity to take a look at some other things. So in case it's helpful, it will kind of augment what I'm saying. And then from there, I'll unshare my screen. We can have some Q&A. And then we also have a special guest coming around 1:30 or so. Okay, so with that, I am going to share my screen and tell you 5 things to know about Harvard Law School. All right, so the first thing to know about Harvard Law School. Harvard Law School is a relatively large American law school. And when you have a big school, you have a lot of opportunities. On the other hand, even though we're large for a law school, we are relatively small as an institution of higher ed. There's about 500 students in the incoming class this year. Because we're a larger law school, we are able to support so many amazing opportunities for our students. For example, we have over 500 courses, about half of which are 25 students or fewer. I just dropped the course catalog into the chat if you want to start poking around and seeing some of the different things that we get to offer this year. We also have over 100 student organizations, everything from a video game society to a Muslim Law Students Association to an association focused on health law, and really anything in between. So there's our student organizations. We also have 17 journals. So this is something I did not know before I went to law school. Usually you hear about journals and publications and they're peer reviewed, which means that it's professors that are editing and choosing what to publish. In the law and in the legal profession, journals are all edited by students and the articles are selected by students. So being on a journal is a really amazing opportunity to get to engage with scholarship, to get to work with professors and edit their scholarship, and as well as produce your own scholarship. So we have 17 journals. Out of the 16 of the journals, you can join your 1L fall. You don't have to do an application. There's no writing process. You just sign up and you can join a journal 1L fall. There's one journal that is for 2L onward, and that's the Harvard Law Review. And about 3/4 of our students do choose to work on a journal at some point during their HLS education. Another big advantage of having a large school is you do have a really large alumni network. We have over 40,000 alumni living and working all over the world. So that's the first thing to know about Harvard Law School. Big school, big opportunities. Second thing to know, Harvard greatly emphasizes experiential learning. You may have heard about legal clinics. So legal clinics are now a really important part of legal education at any law school. It's an opportunity for you to get hands-on experience working with clients who have real legal issues and almost certainly wouldn't have legal representation if you were not there. We have 35 different clinics, as well as a large number of student practice organizations. And our clinics are a really important part of life for our students. The student practice organizations that I mentioned are a lot like clinics. You get to work with real clients, with real legal issues. The difference is that you get to start them 1L year. So I'm going to drop into the chat some examples. You can go on our website, I'm sure, to find lots of information about clinics. But I really like this article. It's called A Day in the Life of Harvard Clinics, because it'll give you a sense of what it's actually like to be on a clinic. So this article was pre-pandemic, spring 2020. Reporters followed around all of the different legal clinics at Harvard and looked at what our students were doing in just one day. 4 out of 5 students participate in clinical work, and our students engage in a significant number of pro bono hours. Every student is required to complete 50 hours of pro bono by the time they graduate. The average hours of pro bono legal work completed by an HLS student is 640. So our students go far above and beyond. Another opportunity for experiential learning happens in your 1L year and in the January experiential term. So our 1Ls are actually signing up for their January experiential term classes now. In the month of January, you have a credit, no credit course that is all focused on building skills. And I'm going to drop an article about January experiential term in the chat right now. So the classes range from negotiation workshop, working on your negotiation skills, trial advocacy, one on the intersection of technology and public interest, and a whole lot more. All right, so first, big school, big opportunities. Second, emphasis on experiential learning. The third thing I'd love for you to know about Harvard Law School is that our students are amazing. I'm going to drop a video into the chat. You don't have to watch it right now, and I'll email it to you after if you sign up for the email list. And it's a number of our incoming students talking about what motivated them to go to law school. I absolutely love our students. They're very much the best part of working at Harvard Law School and being a part of the HLS community. You can also take a look at our 1L class profile. And a couple of the things featured on this chat, I think, elucidate our classes. 4 out of 5 of our students come in with at least 1 year of work experience. Our students come from a whole variety of undergraduate institutions. There's 164 featured in the 1L class this year, including UT Arlington, and over 350 in the JD student body as a whole. And about half our students identify as female, and just under half identify as a person of color. So, big school, big opportunities, emphasis on experiential learning, amazing classmates. The fourth thing to know about Harvard Law School is that mentoring and advising is crucial to the HLS experience. Our dean, John Manning, is a first-generation college student himself and remembers very well what it's like to go into your 1L year of Harvard Law School, and he really emphasizes mentoring and advising. All of our incoming 1Ls have at least 5 assigned advisors, 2 faculty advisors, 2 peer advisors, and 1 alumni match. So your 2 faculty advisors are your section leader. This is a professor who not only teaches you during your 1L fall, but is also sort of the head of your 1L section. I should mention 1L sections are sort of the cornerstone of your 1L experience. So our 500 incoming students are divided into 7 sections of about 70 students each. You take all of your classes with everyone in your section. It's a little like being back in elementary school, in hopefully a good way. And your section leader is very much the heart and sets the tone for your section. Your other faculty advisor is your reading group leader. So we have over 60 reading groups for our 1Ls this year. So the reading groups are about 5 to 10 students each. They're not for credit, they're just for fun. There's small groups in a topic that interests you with one of our faculty members, and your reading group leader is your other faculty advisor. You have 2 assigned peer advisors. One is a member of the Board of Student Advisors, a teaching assistant for legal research and writing, as well as a resource for you more generally, and the other is your section connect match. So the Section Connect match is a 2L or 3L student who was in your section in a prior year. So they had all the same professors you do, and you're matched with them based on being in the same section and also shared areas of legal interest. And then we also have 1L peer advisors. So 1L peer advisors are not assigned the way Section Connect matches and BSAs, Board of Student Advisors, are assigned. The 1L peer advisors are available to the entire 1L class. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about mentoring and advising, I'm going to drop a kind of umbrella link into the chat. Okay, so big school, big opportunities, emphasis on experiential learning, amazing classmates, mentoring and advising. The fifth thing to know about Harvard Law School, we offer exclusively need-based financial aid. We're one of 2 schools in the country that has a financial aid budget that is entirely need-based. So there's not a dollar of our financial aid that depends on your LSAT score, your GRE score, or anything else about your application. It's all need-based. A little less than half of our students receive need-based grants. About 3/4 of our students are on financial aid. The grant program is just one way we support our students coming in and also support our students in their career choices after they leave HLS. One of the most notable is the Low Income Protection Plan. So that's our loan repayment program that supports students who go into lower paying public interest or law-related private sector jobs. We also have guaranteed summer public interest funding that you can find out more about on this link. So this is a financial aid basics link. Okay, all right. I think that's it. 5 things to know about HLS. Big school, big opportunities, experiential learning and the clinics, amazing classmates, advising and mentoring, and comprehensive need-based aid. I will answer some questions today. You can also always feel free to reach out to my team, jd.admiss@law.harvard.edu. And please do follow us on Instagram and Twitter, as well as on our blog. And if you sign up, I'll drop that link again to sign up for our email list, and I'll send you a follow-up email tomorrow if you do. Okay. All right, so that's it. 5 things to know about Harvard Law School. I'm going to stop my share. And now I'm excited to learn more about you. Amber, how would you like to handle the Q&A for this first portion before our guest arrives?
Yes, so hopefully everyone can let me know if you can't hear me. I'm not great at Zoom, as some people know. But I definitely would like to open the chat up if people are a little bit shy, but if anybody has a question, please let us know, and we'll take you off mute and let you either show us you or just do it audibly. But I do first want to let you know, Christy, that some of the folks are trying to add themselves to the registration, but it's showing that it's not available.
Oh, let me fix that right away. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Yes, we should be right. We should be fine now. Okay, here we go.
Perfect. Good.
Again, sorry about that. Thanks for letting me know.
No problem. So for those of you who joined us after we got started, Ms. Jobson is the Chief Administrative Officer, or Chief Admissions Officer for Harvard Law, and she has graciously allowed students to add themselves to a registration list that will allow her to keep communication with everybody. So if you will just take 2 minutes and put your name, email, and that would be much appreciated, and they can keep you in their listserv. But who has questions? If you want to type it out. Oh, I see Miss Gabrielle Early has a question. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question.
So I had a question regarding incoming law students. So I know that the LSAT has to be around 170 and you have to have a pretty high GPA. But for the students that have been admitted to Harvard Law that don't exactly have a very high GPA and don't really have a high LSAT score, what did they what experiences did they have that boosted their application, if that makes sense?
Absolutely. Thanks for your question, Gabrielle. So one thing I'll just note is you don't have to have a 170 to come to Harvard Law School. So that's our 25th percentile. But again, we have a relatively large class. So there's about 120 students in the 1L class this year that had a 169 or lower. And that's across 3 different classes. That's hundreds of people. Somebody asked one recently, I don't know if you've listened to my podcast, but I do a podcast with the Dean of Admissions at Yale Law School, and we just did our Q&A episode. And someone asked a question very, very similar to what you just asked. They phrased it as, who exactly are these people who get in with, a 169 or below? And it's really interesting because from my perspective, there are a whole lot like the students who have, perfect LSAT scores. They're amazing. And that's why we're admitting them, and we can't picture our class without them. I think that when students there's a lot of ways to showcase your academic potential. So a test score is one way, a GPA is another way, but we really do dig into your transcript and take a look at the courses that you took, your performance over time, and we think a lot about what your recommenders say about you. So I think it really is worth the outlay of time to reflect for a good month on potential recommenders. Who is going to be someone who is going to be an advocate for you, be a supporter, tell us what you're like in class, provide us with a lot of detail, help us picture you in the classroom, and give those recommenders a long period of time in order to formulate a long and thoughtful recommendation for you. So strong recommendations and really excellent grades in rigorous classes are other indicia of academic potential alongside your LSAT score. And then more broadly, there's the perspective that you're going to bring. So help us understand how you see the world, what's motivating you to go to law school, and what's your why. The ways to do that are through most obviously probably through your personal statement, and if you choose to submit an optional statement, that's where we get to hear from you, about you, in your voice. And then also thinking a lot about your resume, the activities you've engaged in, and how we can understand your interests and your path forward. I hope that helps.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
That was a great question. I saw that other people had similar questions or concerns, about how do you stand out if one or the other is not looking great. So I thought that was a great question. Good job. And so, yeah, guys, as you think of any questions, ask them, because you never really know who else on the call might have that same concern. So Amber Mills, I see you have a question. And you guys are free to do just mic only or video as well, whatever you like. Hello, we see her now.
I kind of look a mess. Sorry, I forgot about this until last minute, but
don't worry at all. You look great.
So kind of going off her question a little bit, I noticed that a large percentage of the class the slide that you showed had like at least 1 year of work experience. And so I'm someone who I'm graduating in December, and I've decided to take that year to work. I have a job offer lined up. But I did have some doubts about that. So it's kind of encouraging to see that a lot of other people also like take a year to work. And so I kind of just wanted to ask how that like looks from the perspective of an admissions, chief admissions, I guess.
Yeah, so we do actively preference work experience. So Gabrielle, I think this is responsive to your question as well. Somebody who has some professional engagement, has built some professional skills. That's a real insight that you bring to the classroom. It's a real insight that you bring to the clients that you're going to serve when you're an attorney. And I think that's something to think about. So that's like from an admissions perspective, it's a huge plus. Like that is something we are looking for. But I think the decision to work or to do something between college and law school should be driven less by like what an admissions officer is going to think someday, and more driven by this is just an amazing opportunity for you to get to explore a potential area of interest, get a sense of yourself. What is it like for you to work in a full-time professional setting, build some skills. I mean, I really think even a job you don't like that much, you're going to get a lot out of it. Also, for legal employers, judges who are hiring for clerkships do really like to see some sort of experience between college and law school. So I think it's Amber, congratulations on your job and your upcoming graduation. I guess December is not that far from now, so it's really coming down. I think that from a perspective of your future law school application, it's definitely a big plus. More importantly, I think it will help you professionally, both now and as a law student. And it really, I think there's a lot of personal growth that happens in those years or two out of college. And if someone else on this Zoom call is wondering, okay, but like, what do I do during that year between college and law school? You can kind of do everything and make it relevant to your future law school experience. That's one of the things that's so interesting about the law, right? So someone who has worked in a unionized setting has a really different perspective on labor law than someone who worked in more of a management type setting. And our faculty enjoy having all of those experiences and perspectives in the classroom. So again, it really can be almost anything. I always stand by that, even though that's not always the most helpful advice. I think sometimes people want me to tell them the 5 things that they should be doing between college and law school. But yes, congrats again, Amber, and I wouldn't worry about it at all.
Thank you.
On the flip side, if you're someone who's really confident you want to go straight from college to law school, 1 out of 5 members of your class do come straight from college to law school, so you won't be the only one if you're not taking the approach that Amber's taking.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great question. So I have a question that was sent to me. Specifically, whether or not you guys are considering DACA students or undocumented students, would that make them ineligible to apply? And if they're not ineligible, how does financial aid work, especially if they identify as a DACA student or an undocumented student?
Okay, so earlier in the chat, I put that video, the Why Law, students talking about law school. If you watch that video after this, you're going to hear from one of my very favorite 1Ls, Carlos Gonzalez Sierra, who is a very well-known activist, is documented and is a very well-known activist for documented students. He's actually a joint degree student between Harvard Law School and Harvard Kennedy School. So he's one example of a number of students who are documented at HLS. Actually, in the big DACA case that was argued before the Supreme Court, one of the named plaintiffs, Mitchell Santos Toledo, is just graduated from HLS. I actually think he wrote a blog post for us, but he's been on NPR and the New York Times. You've probably heard his voice or seen his face. So that's all to say, there's a lot of documented students at HLS. You are equally eligible for financial aid. Our financial aid team will work with you in a very confidential way to ensure that you have access to all the opportunities that your other students have. We also have HLS. We have institutional loans we can give out if you're concerned about loans, about loan eligibility and the like. Suffice to say, we'll make it happen for you, as we have for Carlos and Mitchell and many others. Let me see if I can find Mitchell in the chat.
Excellent. Well, so let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have more that you want to share with the student on that?
No, keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
So
and also, I'll just say that whoever you are, I'm really looking forward to reading your application, because I know that you are going to have some really important things to share. So
excellent. See, that's awesome. More questions. Okay. Olamide, would you like to go ahead and unmute yourself, or if you would like, you can put your camera on?
I'll just unmute myself.
Okay.
So I have a question for international students. I was just wondering, as international students, there are certain benefits that we do not have the opportunity to get. Recently a teacher in UTA was like, on my break, it's best for me to establish a few internships before I decide to go to law school. And that's proven difficult because I'm international. So I was wondering if like I could get into law school, but what opportunities would the law school, like Harvard Law School, what opportunities would it create for me as an international student?
So the decision to, thank you so much for that question. So you probably saw on our slide, this year our incoming class is 9% international students. That's lower than it is typically. It's typically more like 15 to 20% international students. We are a really global law school. The decision to pursue a JD at an American law school is actually a really big decision as an international student. I think that you will want to think a lot about where you want to practice law in the future and think about whether a JD from a United States institution is transferable, how it will work with potentially being admitted to the bar later. A number of our international students do choose to stay in the United States after graduation. So I'm sure you're familiar with this already, but you have about a year's worth of OPT that you can use in order to stay and have a job. And then a lot of our students do transition to the private sector, and their firms usually sponsor them for a visa. I think that the two biggest complications I see for international students, one is just feeling more limited in their career options. So if you are an international student who knows you want to work outside the United States in public interest, I am confident you're going to be fine. If you want to stay in the United States, you do have that year of OPT. After that, it is difficult to secure a visa because public interest organizations in the US typically have less resources, and it is harder for them to sponsor you for a visa to stay. It happens. We have students who do this. It's not impossible at all, but it's a harder road. And so I'm trying to just be really honest with you about it, because it's something for you to think about in the front end. If you want to go into the private sector, what our career services offices recommend is just making sure you are applying to global law firms that have offices outside the United States, so that if something goes off the tracks with the visa process, you're able to stay in your job and work in another office while you wait for your visa to come through after your OPT year. So that's one of the biggest challenges I see. The second thing that comes to mind isn't an insurmountable challenge depending on your career goals, but just one thing to be aware of is during our January term, your 1L January term, we talked about the January experiential term where you're on campus taking a class. During 2L and 3L year, your January term is a little more open. You could take a class on campus. There's lots of classes that are available during January term. You could do clinical work in one of the established Harvard Law School clinics. And then a lot of students do choose to do what's called an independent clinic, which is essentially like an externship. And we have students who go all over the world in the month of January in order to do an independent clinic. One thing just to be aware of is it can be hard for international students to do an independent clinic during the J term in the United States because if it's not connected with a class, even though you're getting clinical credit for it, if it's not connected with a class, it's interpreted as work. So that month would eat into your OPT months later. So those are the two big challenges you see. On the other hand, a lot of our international students don't want to do an independent clinic during their 2L or 3L J term. They want to take a class. They want to do an independent writing project. They want to do one of the clinics that's established at Harvard Law School that does have an in-class component, so it doesn't impact their OPT. That's just something to be aware of. And I would recommend that we have an international student group called the Coalition for International Students in Global Affairs, CISCA, and that is a really robust community that does an amazing job advocating for our international students, and also building community within the international students.
Awesome. Well, so Christy, we have about 3 questions in the queue, but I thought I would let you know that our special guest has arrived.
Oh,
Yeah.
hello. Where is she? There she is.
Hello.
Hello. Your glasses look so awesome.
Thank you.
Well, I will let everyone know that some of you may know her because she hasn't been gone too long from us, but This is UTA student Joan Josiah, former UTA student, now Harvard Law student. I had to yield claiming her to Christy. She now claims her, but she's never too far. So with that, we'll let Joan share about her experience and kind of let you guys know what's coming down the line for those of you who apply and are accepted to Harvard Law.
All right, so Joan and I thought we would. Hello, Joan. How was class?
Hi, it was good. I had Steven's info like Greg, so that was pretty intense, but I made it.
Good. All right, well, welcome to our call. So Joan and I thought we would do a little bit of like a fireside chat, and I'll interview her a little bit about her HLS experience and her path to law school. But first, Joan, anything you want to share on the front end? Do you want to tell us anything about what you were involved in at UTA, what you're involved in at HLS?
Yeah, sure. And thank you for having me. It was really nice getting that email to come talk. Not only because I'm tired of talking to other law students, but I mean, it's always just nice to be able to talk to other people also who are looking to come to law school. But yeah, at UTA, I did pre-law society mostly because Mrs. White is so lovely and she wouldn't let me go. But I did other things like work with the state abroad office, did a semester abroad, volunteered here and there, and just tried to also chill and have fun because I think that was like a pretty important thing for me to just be able to have fun when I could. Here at HLS, I haven't been able to do much because the semester is super intense, one all year. It's just like that. But I'm hoping to be able to get involved also as soon as things cool down.
Okay, all right. Where did you study abroad? I don't remember.
In France, in Po, the south of France.
That's awesome. I have never been there, but hope to go someday when we
Yeah, soon, when we can travel.
getting back on a plane.
Oh, she was so different when she came back. Oh my God. She couldn't avoid speaking French in just average conversations, just dropping, oh yes, that time I was in France. Yes, Joan.
Mrs. White, that's funny because it probably was a running joke in my mock trial class about how every 2 sentences I have to talk over France. But yeah, I couldn't help it.
All right. Okay. So here we have a couple questions, and then we'll open it up to any of our attendees who want to ask you questions. So first, Joan, what inspired you to go to law school?
Oh, I think people typically know what they want to do in life. For some people, they want to like be a doctor, or sometimes it could be a broader goal of like you wanting to work in a particular field. And for me, I just always knew I wanted to work towards ending injustice. I was born and raised in Ghana, so I saw a lot of injustice on that front, and I saw how a broken system could make citizens lose faith. And I just knew that I wanted to work against that. I think you can work in that in different capacities, but it just made sense for me to go to law school because I thought that being a lawyer would be best suited for me to make the change I wanted to see. I wanted to be on the forefront to fight for people who just didn't think that they had anyone to talk for them. And for me, I just thought that it made sense for me to go to law school and be a lawyer.
So give us a peek into the academic experience during 1L Fall. And you are right in the November. This is like the trough. It was going into the exams. This is November. But tell us about one of the classes you've had this fall or professor you've had that you really enjoy.
So yeah, it's pretty intense. I think people talk about 1L year being a lot, and you're always like, you're exaggerating or what are you talking about until you're like thrown into it and it all makes sense. I think that classes wise, all my classes are going fine. I'm as lost as expected. But if there's any class that stands out to me more, it probably would have to be my civil procedure class, just because it makes sense to be able to see how things work and things progress. And I think that once I caught wind of how much it makes sense to go to court sometimes or to litigate, I could just see that falling in place in all my other classes, because a good understanding of civil procedure would make sense in legislation and regulation or criminal law and contracts, because it just gives you the broader picture. I wouldn't say so much that it kind of informed my decisions for my career moving down the line because it's too early. But I think that for law students, it kind of helps with the fundamentals of understanding how the law works.
Yeah, civil procedure is one of those classes where you just it's like once it starts to click, you start seeing it in all of your different classes. So civil procedure, for those who are listening, is one of the classes you have to take 1L fall because it is, as Joan was saying, a very foundational course. Who do you have? Which professor?
I've got Clark. He's visiting from GW.
Oh, cool. All right. Okay, so do you have a favorite memory from 1L year? And it could be something in class, outside of class, something in 1L section.
Oh man. Yeah, there's just so many. I think like off the top of my head, all the free food I'm getting is like a constant memory because I just love the fact that I'm getting free food. But I think it had to be my section working together for the 1L Cup, because it was pretty early in the semester and these are new people I didn't know I hadn't met, but we were kind of forced to go on a scavenger hunt and forced to kind of work in a team with all these people. And I think that kind of fostered a good sense of community. So I remember like right before the deadline for the 1L Cup. And for those listening, the 1L Cup is just like a scavenger hunt that HLS does every year to kind of get people to know each other. And as part of the scavenger hunt, we needed to put together a salsa dance. So someone knocks on my door and it's like, hey, Joan, do you want to like put together choreographies of a salsa? I thought that was really cool because this is someone I probably would never talk to, but they knew us in a section and live close by. So just a little stuff like that that brings people together. I thought was pretty decent.
Okay, so did your section win the 1L Cup?
Unfortunately, we did not because people hate too much in section 3, but that's okay. Yeah, we just take the L and move on.
Tell me about a classmate, or it could be a group of classmates. Tell me about some people you really enjoy from your section.
Ooh, I absolutely love SIBO. SIBO is this. So we connected
I
because
also love
apparently, right,
SIBO.
right, everybody loves SIBO. Because I found out that he grew up in Texas, and I guess like the people in Tech or from Texas, I hate it a lot at HLS because of course everybody loves to hate in Texas. But we kind of gravitated towards each other with that. But also he lives in my hall, and I absolutely love the fact that I could look out my window and he's like having a cigarette down there, and I could just go down and talk to him, or he could find an outline that he thinks is going to help me in class, and he just sends that to me. So yeah, it's just knowing that it's always someone looking out for me. That's really nice with SIBO. And he's just as real as they come, which I think is going to be super important once you get to law school. Just finding people you know you can trust, and talk to when you need to.
He's a good egg. We were just talking about Texas. I dropped into the chat the link to the Harvard Law School Texas Club. So Harvard has, there are actually a lot of people from Texas at HLS. So there's your own club. Okay, so then final question for you, and then we'll open it up to the students who are listening today. What do you wish you knew before applying to law school?
Ooh. For starters, I wish I knew about the SEO program. And I'm just going to plug that real quick. It's an internship program for first gen students of color, URM, that's underrepresented minorities. That gives you the chance to intern with a law firm, but also they prepare you for law school. So they're teaching you tips and tricks to survive your first few weeks of law school, first semester. I wish I knew about that because I would have applied. And for my mates who applied to SEO who did an internship, I could tell that once we started, they had a leg up on me, kind of. I mean, they were very generous with sharing information, but I wish I had applied and done that because I thought the experience would have been phenomenal for me. But also, I wish I'd known to relax, which is kind of, I mean, I think that people tell you to relax, everything's going to be fine. But while you're in the throes of applying, taking LSATs, everything just seems so overwhelming. And I think that I wish I'd taken a step back to just relax, knowing that things would go well. But also, maybe if I did relax, things wouldn't have turned out as they did. But yeah.
It's such an easier said than done piece of advice to relax during the admissions process, but it's a really good one. All right, so I think we're ready to open it up to questions from attendees today. Amber.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna. I don't want to ignore the people that had questions before. So I know that they're going to work in their questions for Joan as well as the questions that they have for you, Ms. Johnson. So, Jada. There she is. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Jada.
Yeah, so my question is about, recommendation letters, because you mentioned it earlier, but like obviously anyone can answer this, kind of what are you looking for in your recommendation letters? And are you kind of looking for like a cohesive theme between all the recommendation letters, or do you want each recommendation letter to kind of have its own, significant detail, about me? Sorry, my classroom lights are automatic, so they keep.
You're fine. You're fine.
So,
So I think if there's a consistent theme we're looking for, we're looking to have multiple people be like, Jada's awesome. Like Jada's awesome in class, Jada's awesome outside of class, Jada's someone you want to get to know. She's respectful and engages with her classmates in a really productive way. That's I don't mean to be too flippant, but like if that's a theme, I think that would encapsulate it. It can be nice. So as you're thinking, it's almost like thinking about ordering on a menu at a restaurant, like what will complement each other, what will fit. I think that the cornerstone is who knows you really well and who can tell us about you, right? So that's first and foremost. Let's say you have a whole bunch of people to choose from who know you well. You might want to think about how the different letters can complement one another. So maybe someone, if you have a major and a minor, for example, that might be one way to flesh it out. If you have someone who knows you from a larger course, someone who knows you from a smaller seminar, that might be something to think about. But that to me is all very secondary to the first question, which is just like, who knows me really well and can speak about me and give the reader a sense of what my work product is like, what my writing quality is like, what I'm like to have in class, and help the reader picture you there. Joan, I'm curious, how did you think about who to ask for your recommendation letters?
So I thought about professors who I knew were willing to go to bat for me, because I think it's super important for you to have someone who's kind of advocating for you, kind of why they think you need to go to the school you're trying to go. From the get-go, Mrs. White was always a constant because I thought we had a good relationship and she could probably speak to who I was as a student, but also as a person. And then my French professor, because I absolutely loved French. And then one of my supervisors at work. So I guess for me, just people who I knew that even if I was not or did not have a chance to look at my letters, they would be willing to advocate for me because they just generally had a good impression of who I was as a person.
Okay, thank you. That really helped a lot. Thank you so much.
And Jada, I don't know if you've listened to my podcast, but episode 3 is all about letters of recommendation. So
okay, yeah, I'll definitely check that out
on Spotify and Apple and Stitcher and everywhere.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Jada.
Great questions. Nicole Mina.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm so excited to be here. I just wanted to say that at first. I did have a question about internships. I know that although they aren't required, they're definitely recommended. And I guess I just wanted to know how many students you see coming in with non-legal related internships, if those are, I guess, still as valuable or still the same experience you'd want to see in a student.
Yeah, so I think I think most of our students come in with non-legal related internships or non-legal related paid work during the semester. A lot of our students work during the semester on campus. You don't have to do anything with law or legal in the title or in the job description before you come to law school. Actually, we're kind of looking to have a class that has had a whole different variety of perspectives. On the flip side, again, like almost anything you do can connect to the law in some way, right? The law is interesting because it permeates all aspects of our lives. So you could be working for your local transit board, and it might not feel particularly law related, but you're going to be exposed to all sorts of interesting concepts related to tort liability and regulations and employment law, and it's kind of can be mind-blowing actually once you're in 1L year and you're like, wait a minute, I see law everywhere. I don't know if that's happened to you yet too. Jonah, do you want to share a little bit about some of the experiences that you had coming into law school?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad that question was asked, because I think my concern part of going to law school, just applying, was the fact that I had no legal internships that I thought were like substantial. I just didn't have the time in UTA. I didn't have the luxury of being able to intern for free because I had to work to pay for my stuff. But I found that once I got in, I worked in auto finance or coming to law school. A lot of things just made sense from where I'd worked. And I didn't think that not having that long period of interning and as a paralegal, as a legal assistant, kind of took away from the experience. It did not. So I wouldn't be too concerned if you don't have it. I mean, if you do get the chance, it's a plus, but don't be too concerned about that.
Yeah, do it for you. If there's something that's calling your name and you're like, wow, feel so, I really want to know what it's like to work in a public defender's office. If it's calling your name and it's there, go for it. But I wouldn't take on an internship just because you feel like you have to. That makes sense.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. So I have a question that was sent to me in the chat. A student mentioned his microphone wasn't working, so otherwise he would ask. The question is, oh, and it's funny, you mentioned, Joan, about your experience in France. He shared that he had the exact same experience when he came back from China. He just was randomly speaking Chinese. But the question is, do students have a chance if they take the LSAT early next year, like January or March, or should they just wait for the next round of applications? I'm assuming the student doesn't feel quite ready yet. So you know, what would you recommend? And Joan, please also share, you know, when did you take the LSAT, and not, you don't tell the score, but share just a little bit about that.
Yeah, Joan, you go first. How would you?
So I was pretty late in my application just because I kept procrastinating. And it was kind of hard to work full time and study as much as I wanted to for the LSAT. So I think I took my test in December and then one more in January. And my application to Harvard went in like 2 days before the deadline, as well as all the other schools. I wouldn't advise other people to do that just because it could be nerve-wracking for you to wait that long. And it could also take a toll on your cycle and how things turn out. But I think ultimately it came down to how you feel about your application. It's never going to be perfect, so do not expect it to be. You just need to be confident enough. So if you think that taking that test in Jan and your Jan score is something you're confident about, go ahead and give it a shot. You can always retake and reapply if it doesn't go out well, as opposed to you missing out altogether and not applying at all.
Yeah, I think I would recommend my two big. You're going to be the one to answer this question for yourself, because you're going to be the one to know whether you feel ready and confident with the LSAT, whether you're going to feel ready to submit your applications, and probably the most important thing is whether you really want to go to law school in fall 2021, or whether you'd prefer to wait or you're happy to wait. I think that should drive it. If part of you is wondering whether this is the right step for you and you're not sure that fall 2021 makes sense for any number of reasons, law school will be there. Law school will be there next year. Law school will be there the year after that. Law school will be there in 5 years. I don't really see any disadvantage in waiting. And I think I would let but if you really know you want to go next fall, like if this is calling your name and this is what you want to do, better late than never for your application. I think that the biggest thing I'd advise is just to try to be patient. The spring will feel rough, right? Like you're gonna have people, before you even press submit, there's gonna be people on the internet who are like, oh my gosh, I got into Michigan in October. And you will feel happy for them and also a little bit maybe stressed on the inside. But if you go to law school with them, you're all starting 1L classes on the exact same day. I think a lot can depend on also like your tolerance for waiting a little bit longer to find out.
That was wonderful feedback, guys, and I hope you appreciated that. She gave you permission to, if you feel like you're not ready to apply, it's okay to wait, and get some additional work experience or do whatever. And Joan also said something very valuable, which is you're going to want that sucker to be just perfect. There is no such thing as the perfect application. There just isn't. So don't feel the pressure of making it perfect. Just make it as best as you can, the best application you can put out, and then just send it and say your prayers and let that be that. So great feedback from both of you guys. Thank y'all for that. I see another question. And this may be for Joan. How did you study for the LSAT? Well, no, yeah, both of you have taken the LSAT. How did y'all study for the LSAT?
You want to take it? I can go first. Okay. So I took the LSAT way back in fall 2005. I did not take a class. I know sometimes people take classes. I didn't take a class or anything like that, but I did borrow some. I had a friend who I think had taken a class, or she has some books. She gave me all of her books. And I really studied by just working through lots of different problems. I started out by just kind of working out the problems, not under a time pressured situation, and then I would practice little sections timed, like little chunks of questions timed. And then honestly, the best thing I ever did for myself with the LSAT was find a friend who was also taking the LSAT. So my friend Randy, who also ended up going to HLS, he and I would just study together, and it wasn't even that we were so helpful to one another with the actual, working through the problems. It was that it kind of just held us accountable, right? So every time I did not want to study for the LSAT on a Thursday evening, I was like, well, but I said I would meet Randy at 7. He's also someone I loved to see and looked forward to seeing. So I just, like finding a buddy, I think can be one of the best steps. That's what worked for me. And then for the month before the test, Randy and I would meet. The test was administered on a Saturday morning back then, or like we were scheduled for a Saturday morning test. So the month before, every Saturday morning, we would meet and sit down and take a whole test and do it timed. And then that was kind of like our practice run.
So I guess for me, I didn't really start studying till I want to say March of 2019, and I tried to work through the problems myself, and I found a tutor to kind of supplement what I was studying. So if I found maybe a concept I just couldn't get, or I just needed like a tip or a trick from someone who had done this for years, my tutor kind of filled in those gaps for me. And like I said, I was working full time. So for some of you who may try to do this while you're still in school, taking a full course load, or after when you're trying to work, it's going to be super difficult. So try to find time slots. So if it's 2 hours every day or 3 hours every day, you want to block that off and put your phone away. Don't go out. Don't put appointments at that time, just to focus on it. And I found that once I kind of like stopped thinking about it as a test, it kind of took the fear away, because you can't think much if you're like super scared about the text and anxious. So I try to think of it as like a game or just an aptitude test, which I like to take. So if I think of it that way, it doesn't scare me as much. But yeah, also just having friends who keep you accountable is super important, like KJ said. So that's definitely one thing you want to do. Yeah, I honestly don't think I'm a master of the test, but 7 Sage helps a lot. They had free videos. I think they're no longer free. Khan Academy also helped, because when they first started with the pilot program for the prep test, they came to UTA and Miss White asked us to fill out some forms, so we had access to that. I thought it was pretty helpful also. So yeah, just give yourself enough time, have a goal, work at it consistently. You're gonna have to sacrifice some friends, some going out, but I think knowing what the goal is at the end might help pull you through.
And if anybody has any questions about, where to find a tutor or where to find a prep course, if you chose to do that, just shoot me an email. We can go over that for sure. So not a problem. Brooke, you have a question?
Yes, I do. But thank you for, before I state my question, I just want to thank you for this informational session, because it's, not only super helpful to me, but I'm sure everyone else that's in here. But I did want to ask, so I am a freshman and I have, tons of years ahead of me. And I just wanted to know, I guess this question is directed mostly to Joan, but I did want to know if, what were just some of the extracurriculars that you took in order to build up, like professional skills or communication skills. I know I'm in student government currently, and I wanted to join like the pre-law society and ambassadors and stuff like that. But I just wanted to know what you recommend, or your plan and what you did.
So I guess I did stuff that I would typically enjoy doing, regardless of whether I thought it would help me look good to law schools or not. Pre-law society, because I want to go to law school and just white is awesome, so why not join pre-law? But also just the student government was really good. I dabbled in that a little my semester abroad, because I thought I wanted to learn a language, go outside, see how other people lived also, and how the law worked in other countries. So I think that you might want to do some introspection to see what really interests you, because it doesn't really serve you to do things that you think might look good on paper, but you don't enjoy them, because that way you're not going to be able to give 100%. So yeah, you may want to find things that you genuinely like. So if it's student government, that's great. I think it shows that you're into advocacy for people and serving your community. I think that looks great for you as a candidate. The pre-law society also works because it shows like your continuous intent to go to law school. But outside of that, anything that's really fun, because I think that even if you decide to join a pottery club at UTA, doing that really well shows your commitment to a cause. I think that matters more than you have Harding being school president or something like that.
I completely agree. It's really interesting. I read a lot of applications and it kind of shows when people are not as into their activities. I know that sounds funny, like how could someone tell, but I don't know. You can tell. And we interview candidates, so particularly in interviews, it shows, right? Like, you're like, tell me all about the pottery club, and the person's like, oh, I don't know. We made pottery. It's not my thing. And it just, I completely co-sign what Joan said. Like, follow where your path leads you, and it doesn't it doesn't have to be anything necessarily law related. I actually feel like I got so much out of undergraduate extracurriculars in terms of problem solving. I had a couple different leadership positions that have like nothing to do, like in dance, nothing to do with law and law school. But the skills I built in terms of leading my classmates, setting a goal, project planning, right? Like having a long term, how do we get from A to B, and what do I need to delegate to others? That's the exact same skill set I used when I was a litigator at a large firm in Boston, even though you wouldn't think maybe on paper that a dance team had anything to do with being a litigator in Boston. But it's like whatever that problem solving, opportunities for leadership, project planning, that can happen, I think, in a whole lot of different organizations.
Thank you so much. It was very helpful.
Good luck, Brooke.
Thank you.
And Joan is so modest. She was also a award-winning mock trial competitor as well. So, so I did notice there was a question about the program that Joan mentioned at the beginning. I believe that's the SEO Fellowship, and Ms. Jobson actually dropped a link to that program in the chat. So if you want to take a further look about that, please go ahead to that link and you'll be able to identify where more information about that. The next question, how do admissions determine if your undergraduate coursework is truly rigorous?
Okay, so it's an art, right? You are looking at this universe of information given to you on a transcript and then trying to decipher and understand it. So one thing we look at is we look to see if your coursework develops over time. So if you take an introduction to sociology course early in your college career, and you continue with it, does it build, right? Can we discern that you've had a bit of an academic focus, right? So maybe you're a history major. We try to understand from your transcript and if you do a senior thesis or who your recommenders are. Are there areas of history that you really dug into? Where did you go deep and not just go broad? Another thing is if anyone is a STEM major here on this call and you're really worried about your cumulative GPA because you're worried it's going to be lower, don't worry, it's you and everybody else, and we very much understand that different departments have stricter grading curves. We also really understand that sometimes your transition to college can look different from person to person, and it's not atypical to see somebody who has lower grades in their first 2 or 3 semesters as they're kind of adjusting to college, figuring out what works for them in terms of study habits, figuring out what classes really do spark their interest, and then just accelerating from there, from sophomore year onward. So very much looking at the different classes. It can help when your recommenders help us understand your transcript as well, letting us know which classes that you took were really some of the most difficult in the department, although every recommender seems to think that their course was the one that was the most difficult in the department. I've noticed this across every undergraduate institution. And then also looking at, we ask a question on our application form about significant pieces of writing. So if you, particularly in the humanities, in the social sciences, looking to see if you had longer and larger writing-based projects. It's also nice when someone, you can tell from someone's transcript that they experimented a little bit with their interests, right? Like out of no, they're a chemistry major, and out of nowhere you see a creative writing class during their junior spring, and it's like, oh wow, like there's this other thing they're working through, or someone's a classics major and you see a couple computer science courses. That gives you a sense that the person is confident about following their interests, and that they're well-rounded in a nice way.
Very good. So yeah, guys, don't be afraid to take some chances with your course selections there. Are there any, oh, I see another. So how do you guys interpret a drop? So what happens if you're looking through somebody's transcript and they have a W or 2? You know, does that mean, uh-oh, we're not going to consider them anymore?
You know, honestly, I don't really care. Like, I always figure the person missed the ad drop deadline. Maybe it's like, it happened to me. Like, I guess so when you see someone withdrew an entire semester, I mean, you do have, like, your heart has a moment where you're like, gosh, I hope that they're okay. I wonder what happened. But a course here or there, like, I just figure you didn't get your paperwork in right by the ad drop deadline. And sometimes the ad drop deadlines are like 1 week into class. I don't know, like, life can change after a week of class. So I guess I just don't personally worry about it. And I
But also,
speak for my team. Like my whole admissions team doesn't worry too much about it, like a withdraw here or there.
yeah, I was just gonna say real quick that I did have like a W in my transcript from a philosophy class I thought I was really gonna enjoy, but it turned out it was just really, really bad. So I just withdrew before I could do any further damage to my GPA. So I didn't, honestly, applying to law school, I didn't even think about that. So yeah, I think KJ was right on that.
Perfect. I see a question from Miss Karen.
Yes, hi. Christy,
Hi,
thank you
Karen.
for your time and for everything that you told us today. It was very helpful. My question is, when thinking about Harvard Law School or law school in general, it's very common for us to feel a little overwhelmed and anxious, and to tend to think that going to Harvard is an insurmountable obstacle. And so my question for you is, amidst this tendency for society to make us think that we're not good enough for what we dream of or our goals, what do you recommend, or what is your advice regarding how to stick to your roots, how to see it as a potential adventure and opportunity rather than an obstacle?
Joan, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I feel like she touched a nerve when she started to talk. Just because, yeah, I just always knew that I wanted to go to Harvard Law, and I didn't know how that was going to happen. It just felt like it was one of those things with wishful thinking. And I remember quite well, I joined this church when I first moved to UTA, and I was talking to a couple, and it was an older Caucasian couple. They're like, oh, what do you want to do? I was like, oh, I want to go to law school. It's like, do you know where you want to go? I want to go to Harvard Law. Then they looked at each other, looked at me, they're like, wait, what? I was like, oh yeah, I do want to go to Harvard Law. And then they laughed a little. I mean, I knew what that meant, but I didn't call them out. And it's just been other people who also said stuff like that. So fast forward to me applying, and I actually got waitlisted because I applied so late. So I got the email from Harvard Law asking if I was still interested, because I guess you have to do this thing where you send a letter of continued interest to let them know. And I ignored that email for like 3 weeks or a month maybe. And that was just me playing with myself, because I knew I'd be really hurt if I got rejected. And it just saddens my heart to think that if I hadn't gone back to remember what I wanted to do the whole time and who I was and the dreams that I had, I would have probably let that email go and I wouldn't have ended up here. So I think that it's super important for you to remember who you are, why you've come this far, and where you're trying to get. There's always going to be external noise, background, people doubting you and whatnot, but you need to have tunnel vision for certain things. So you always want to block them out and keep being consistent. So you get to that point where it's going to be questionable. It's like, this is too big, but you don't lose from trying. Like, if I didn't get in, I didn't get in, at least I tried. But if I had ignored that email, I hadn't followed up, then it would have been like a bigger L for me to take. So yeah, you just always need to stay true to yourself. Don't listen to people. People are just always going to doubt you. They're going to want to like throw shade at you and whatnot. But yeah, block it out, because you really know what you want to do and the joy that's going to come from being able to achieve that.
Yeah, I think that when you end up at a place like Harvard, so I actually, like, so I've got this Zoom background up of the HLS library, and I distinctly remember this moment. I actually think it was November, Joan. I think it was November of 1L fall. I was studying torts, and I was like reading for torts, and exams were coming up, and it just like felt so much, and things hadn't clicked yet for all of my classes. And I remember having this moment where I looked up at this ceiling, and I was like, what am I doing here? So I had been a teacher for a couple of years, like SIBO, actually. And I loved teaching, and I loved my students. And I kind of was like, gosh, I left this thing I really enjoyed and was kind of getting good at in order to come here. And I'm not sure, I had this 11 p.m. moment in this library where I was like, what am I doing here? Like reading torts at 11 p.m. And what's a tort? And then the library has, like, when you go to the end of the hallway down there, the library has a coffee room where there's like a free little sort of K-cup machine. Joan, you'll get to see it someday, I promise. I like made myself a little cup of decaf coffee and like took a little walk around the library, and then I thought about my students and some of my particular students and some of the systemic challenges that they had faced, and like I kind of got myself back to it. And one piece of advice I always give to people, take it or leave it, Karen. But one piece of advice I always give to people is, like, before you start your 1L year at law school, write it down. Like, write down or draw or whatever makes sense to you, but just like have some physical something reflecting on why you went there, and then put it in the bottom of your drawer. And then when you have that like 11 p.m. in the moment library, pull it back out. Because I think if I had a little like journal entry, I would have been like, okay, no, that is why I'm here, right? Like, this is all part of this larger plan.
Thank you so much. Because I like I said, it's a little unnerving seeing how rigorous the journey is. Of course, it's also equally exciting, but it is very hard not to psych yourself out when thinking about applying to law school, let alone Harvard. But thank you so much for your insight. It was very, very helpful, and wish me luck, but thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And Karen, if you can help it, try to stay off Reddit and the other message boards. They're really supportive communities, but people spin out. Like, so I'll give you an example that's happening right now on Reddit. Like, so yesterday, Courtney from my team adjusted some of the language in our status checker, and just it's nothing. It's like, we just thought we could be more clear about how your LSAC cash report is transmitted by LSAC, but then it needs to be processed by our office, and you won't go complete until it's like nothing. No one on Reddit has even like picked up on what the change was, but it, like, I guess, lit up everyone's status checkers on law school data, which was created by one of our 2Ls, Eric. And it, like, everyone's like, what does it mean? Does this mean I'm done for? Maybe I'm gonna get in? Like, maybe someone's reading my application right now. It doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't. And I kind of want to go on there and be like, hey, like, go have lunch with a friend, or like go for a walk, right? Like, and I think I from my observations, it seems like it can be a really supportive community, but all of those message boards can also feed anxiety. It happens in law school too, right, Joan? People can feed the anxiety.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Joan, as well.
Good luck.
Good luck, Karen.
Okay. Oh, sorry. My background swallowed me. You are like, who is that?
No, it was funny. It looks like you popped up. You're like, hello.
Hey, guys. Okay. So I think that's a perfect place to end there. It's just a point of inspiration. By the way, good luck, Karen. Good luck to everybody who is applying this cycle. You can do it. You are supported. Always feel free to reach out to me if you have questions. I'm sure the folks over at Harvard Law School can continue to ask questions, or not ask questions, answer questions that you may have beyond this point. But I'm so thankful to you guys for putting yourselves out there and asking all of your questions. And thank you so much, Christy, Joan. Y'all are phenomenal. This was fantastic, I gotta say.
Thank you so much
Fantastic.
for having us. And I dropped the list. If you haven't signed up yet, if you'd like to sign up, I'll give you an email after, and I'll put in I saved the chat, so I'll like put in all of the links that I shared today.
Perfect. Somebody said, how do I put my email on the list? Just click on that link there and you can you'll be able to find it. So awesome. Well, thank you so much. This is great. So yeah, you found a friend for life in me, and you can't shake me, so don't try. Ask Joan. But with that, we will conclude. Thank you, guys. And I see everyone saying thank you so much to you ladies for putting this all together. So wonderful. We appreciate y'all. Y'all be safe and stay warm, because y'all are probably having real winter and we're still in the 80s, 70s. I don't know. It's not close. All right. Take care of you ladies.
All right. Have a great day.
All right. Bye.
Bye.